Woke again near midday, the light softer than before, no longer burning through her eyelids. Her leg throbbed in a slow, deep rhythm, and though her head felt clearer, her body still felt heavy. She pushed her palms into the mattress, trying to sit up, but her arms trembled halfway. The door eased open, and she froze. Jonah stepped inside, carrying a small tray with a bowl of broth and a folded cloth. His shirt was on now, damp around the shoulders as if he had been working outside. He stopped when he saw her struggling. "You should have called me," he said quietly. She lowered her gaze. "I didn't want to bother you." Jonah set the tray down and moved a little closer, though he kept a respectful distance. "You're not a bother. How's the leg doing today?" "It hurts when I move," she whispered. "But I can sit." He knelt beside the bed to check the bandage. His fingers pressed lightly near the wound and she flinched. Jonah paused at once. "Sorry. I'll be gentle." His voice held a steady patience that made something loosen inside her chest. He checked the skin around the cut, then sat back. "It isn't infected. That's good news. But you still shouldn't walk today. Heat takes energy out of the body faster than people realize." Ella nodded, though embarrassment spread through her. She hated lying still. She hated feeling dependent. Jonah picked up the bowl of broth. "Let me help you sit higher." She shook her head quickly. "I can manage." She forced herself upright again, ignoring the sharp pull in her thigh. Jonah waited until she settled, then handed her the bowl. She wrapped both hands around it and whispered, "Thank you." "Eat slowly," he said. "Your stomach needs time." She did as told. The warmth soothed her chest and eased the tightness in her throat. Jonah remained nearby, not hovering, but close enough that she felt watched over. When she finished, he collected the bowl. "If you need anything, call. I'll be right outside." She folded her hands in her lap. "You're very kind." Jonah shook his head. "You were hurt. Anyone would help." Then he stepped away, and the door clicked softly behind him. The afternoon passed with the quiet rhythm of ranch life drifting through the window. Ella heard footsteps on the porch, faint voices, and the distant rumble of hooves. Feeling a little braver, she tried again to stand. She gripped the wooden frame, pushed upward, and pain shot up her leg so sharply she gasped and fell back onto the bed. Frustration welled in her throat. When Jonah returned near sundown with fresh water, he immediately noticed the shifted blanket. "You tried to stand," he said calmly. Ella looked away. "I thought I could." "Not today," he replied. "Your body needs time. Healing is its own kind of work." He checked her temperature, then placed a cool cloth on her forehead. His touch was gentle, almost careful. "You'll feel stronger tomorrow," he said before leaving the room. Night settled slowly. Ella lay awake thinking about the quiet certainty in his voice, the patience in his hands, the way he spoke to her as if she mattered. Wrapped in the blanket, she felt a small warmth inside her, fragile but real, something she had not felt in a very long time. Ella felt stronger the next morning, strong enough to sit without bracing herself and to move her injured leg without wincing every time. She spent the early hours folding clean cloths on the small bench by the window, determined to be useful. Jonah appeared in the doorway with a mild frown when he saw her working. "You should rest a little longer," he said. "Your leg still needs time." Ella straightened the cloth in her hands. "I can manage this much. It feels better today." Jonah studied her for a moment as if weighing how stubborn she might be. "Light work only," he said at last. "If it starts hurting, you stop." His voice was firm but warm in a way that made her chest tighten. She nodded quickly, hoping he did not notice the heat rising in her cheeks. Over the next few days, her strength returned in small pieces. She could stand longer, walk short distances across the room, wipe the table, and help with simple household tasks. Jonah checked on her more often than necessary, always with quiet questions about her leg or whether she had eaten. Ella tried not to read into it, but each gentle glance unsettled her. She was not used to being cared for. On the evening of the seventh day, the ranch glowed gold under the sinking sun. Jonah stopped by her room after the men finished their work. Ella sat on the edge of the bed mending a tear in her skirt. Jonah leaned lightly against the doorframe. "You sew well," he said. Ella looked up, startled. "It is nothing. Just fixing what I have." Jonah hesitated, then stepped inside. "You mentioned before that you were looking for work." Ella lowered her eyes to the thread in her hands. "I have been traveling for months," she said softly. "I lost my place after my mother passed. People turned me away more times than I can count." Jonah's expression changed as if something inside him tightened. "I am sorry," he murmured. Ella forced a small smile. "I am fine. I only need honest work." Jonah nodded once. "This ranch could use someone steady. If you want a place here, you would have one." Ella's breath caught, not from pain, but from a feeling she did not know how to name. It had been a long time since anyone offered her stability. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will think about it." They fell quiet. The soft sound of cows lowing outside drifted in with the evening breeze. After a long pause, Ella folded her skirt into her lap. "Tomorrow morning I would like to go into town for a bit. I need to buy some cloth and thread." Jonah nodded. "I will take you." "You do not have to," she said quickly. "I can manage." Jonah shook his head. "Your leg is not ready for long walks, and the road is rough. I will take you." Something warm stirred unexpectedly in Ella's chest. She lowered her gaze and whispered, "All right." The next morning, Jonah hitched the wagon and helped her climb up with careful hands. As they rode toward town, Ella noticed how people on porches paused to stare, how whispers floated between groups walking along the road. Jonah's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. In town, he pulled the wagon beside the general store. "I will go to the blacksmith's," he said. "Take your time. I will come back for you." Ella nodded and stepped inside, unaware that her quiet errand would change everything. The bell above the general store door chimed softly as Ella stepped inside. The room smelled of flour and dried herbs, and the wooden floor creaked under her careful steps. She moved toward the bolts of cloth, hoping to finish quickly before anyone noticed her. But a pair of women near the shelves turned as soon as she reached for a roll of plain cotton. Their voices lowered, though not enough. "That is the girl Jonah carried into his house," one murmured. The other leaned closer. "I heard she begged him. Said she wanted it right there." A small, sharp laugh followed. Ella's fingers tightened around the fabric. Her breath thinned. She tried to turn away, but a man near the counter added his own careless comment. "Jonah always had good looks and money. Women chase men like that." Another man shrugged. "Or maybe he finally chased someone, though she does not look like much." Heat rose across Ella's cheeks. The room felt smaller with every whispered word. She placed the fabric on the counter with unsteady hands. The storekeeper glanced at her with a mix of pity and doubt before reaching for his measuring stick. Behind her, the conversation sharpened. She must have thrown herself at him. He could do better than that. Maybe he likes unusual types. Laughter fluttered again, cold enough to sting. Ella lowered her gaze to the counter. She forced her hands still even though they trembled. She had heard judgment before, but this felt different. These people did not know her at all, yet they spoke as if they had watched every breath she took. The storekeeper wrapped the cloth in brown paper. Ella reached for it just as the door behind her opened again. Jonah stepped inside, the light from the street catching on his shoulders. The whispering stopped almost at once. Jonah scanned the room. His gaze slid over the women, the men near the counter, the way their eyes darted away. Then he looked at Ella. Her posture was tight, her chin low, her breath uneven. Something in Jonah's expression shifted. He walked closer, his boots slow and steady on the wooden floor. When he spoke, the words were quiet but carried through the store. "She is with me." Silence followed. The women blinked. The men straightened. Even the storekeeper froze with his hand on the cash drawer. Jonah reached out and took the parcel from Ella's shaking fingers. "Are you finished here?" he asked softly. She nodded. Her voice would not form words. Jonah turned toward the door, and she followed, her steps small and careful. The sunlight outside felt too bright after the heavy air of the store. Jonah helped her into the wagon, placing the parcel beside her before taking his seat. The ride back felt longer than the ride in. Jonah kept his eyes on the road, jaw set, reins steady in his hands. Ella folded her fingers together in her lap, replaying his words again and again. "She is with me." She did not know whether to feel comforted or frightened by how quickly the sentence had slipped into her heart. When they reached the ranch, Jonah helped her down. She tried to smile. "Thank you for taking me." Jonah studied her face for a moment. "If anyone in town made you uncomfortable, you tell me." She shook her head softly. "I am all right." Jonah did not look convinced. "Rest a while. I will come by later." Ella watched him walk toward the barn. A quiet ache settled in her chest. His words had silenced an entire store, yet they had stirred something inside her that she had no name for. Jonah returned to the house earlier than Ella expected. The sun had barely shifted past midday when his boots sounded on the wooden porch. Ella was sitting at the small table, smoothing the parcel of cloth she had bought, though her hands still trembled faintly from what had happened in town. Jonah paused at the doorway, as if measuring the weight of the silence around her. "Ella," he said gently, "are you all right?" She nodded once, too quickly. "I am fine." Jonah stepped inside. He did not sit. His eyes searched her face, the tightness around her mouth, the way she avoided looking at him. "I know what they were saying," he said quietly. "I heard enough." Ella's breath caught. She closed her fingers around the edge of the table. "I do not want to cause trouble for you," she whispered. "People already think things that are not true." Jonah's expression hardened, not with anger toward her, but with frustration at the town he knew too well. "Let them think what they want," he said. "It does not change anything for me." "It should," Ella replied. "Your reputation matters. You are respected here." Her voice trembled. "I cannot be the reason people laugh behind your back." Jonah took a slow breath, then stepped closer. "Ella, listen to me." She kept her eyes lowered. He waited until she finally looked up. "What they choose to believe is not your fault," he said. They saw a moment they did not understand, and they filled in a story that never happened. That is on them, not on you. But Ella shook her head. "It still harms you. I heard how they spoke today. They were not mocking me. They were mocking you." Jonah's jaw tightened. "Then I will put a stop to it." She blinked. "How?" Jonah did not answer immediately. He turned slightly toward the open window where distant voices of ranch hands drifted in from the yard. "They listen to me," he said. "If they have forgotten their place, I will remind them." Ella felt panic rise inside her. "Jonah, please do not fight with them because of me." "I am not fighting," he replied. "I am setting things right." Ella pushed herself up from the chair, but pain shot through her leg and she had to brace against the table. Jonah moved toward her, but she held up a shaking hand. "Jonah, I think I should leave." The words came out soft, but they sliced through the air all the same. Jonah froze. "Leave?" "Yes." She lowered her gaze. "If I go, the talk will stop. You will not be dragged into something that is not your fault." Jonah's breath came slow and controlled. "Ella, you are not leaving." "I should," she whispered. "You have already done too much for me." Jonah stepped closer, his voice low and certain. "No, you are not running from this. Not because of a few people who cannot keep their tongues still." She shook her head, fighting tears. "You do not understand. I have lived through this before. Once people start talking, they do not stop. I do not want to watch you be hurt by something that came from me. Jonah held her gaze for a long moment. Then he said, with a quiet resolve that felt unshakable, "Come outside with me." "Why?" "Because I am ending this today." Without waiting for her fear to settle, Jonah stepped out onto the porch, and Ella, heart pounding, followed him into the bright, wide yard where every ranch hand could see them. The afternoon sun cast long, warm lines across the ranch yard as Jonah stepped forward, the dust shifting beneath his boots. The ranch hands stopped what they were doing, sensing the weight in his voice before he even spoke. Ella stood a short distance behind him, her heart tight and unsteady. Jonah looked over the men, letting a long breath settle the air. "There has been too much talk," he said, his tone calm but firm. "Too many stories made from things none of you understand." A few men lowered their eyes. Others straightened as if bracing for what might come next. Jonah continued, "I found Ella injured at my gate. I brought her inside because any decent man would have done the same. That is the truth." He paused, letting the words fall through the silence. "Anything added to that truth ends now." The yard went still, the wind quieting along the fence line. Jonah's gaze sharpened. "Ella is the woman I choose to stand beside," he said. "If anyone here believes she deserves disrespect, they should not be working on this land." 6. A ripple passed through the group. Embarrassed glances dropped to the ground. Some nodded in apology. None dared speak. Jonah let the silence hold them a moment longer, then turned and walked back toward Ella. "Come," he said softly. She followed him to the porch, her steps careful, her breath uneven from everything she had just witnessed. When they reached the top step, Ella faced him, her fingers curling at her sides. "Jonah," she whispered, "why did you say those things in front of everyone?" Jonah exhaled slowly. "Because they needed to hear it," he said. "Not just that you are under my protection, but that you matter to me." Ella looked down, struggling to steady her voice. "But in the store you said it only to silence the gossip." "That was part of it," Jonah admitted. "But not all of it." He stepped closer, his tone gentler than she had ever heard it. "Ella, I care for you. I am not asking you for anything now. I am not trying to decide your life for you. But I will not let anyone shame you for something that was never your fault." Ella felt a soft ache rise in her chest, a mix of relief and fear and something warmer she was not ready to name. Jonah waited, patient, giving her time to find her breath. Finally, she lifted her gaze. "I do not have an answer yet," she said quietly. "I have lived too long without a place to belong." Jonah nodded. "Then stay here. Work with me. Let the answer come when it is ready." A small smile tugged at her lips, shy and genuine. "I think I will stay," she said. "For a long while, I think." Jonah's shoulders eased, and something peaceful settled between them as the evening light turned gold across the porch. For the first time in months, Ella felt the world open gently instead of closing around her. And beside her, Jonah allowed himself a quiet, hopeful breath, as if the beginning he had not dared to imagine had finally arrived.